Welcome to the Garden Path Podcast. I'm your host, Misty Little. This week's episode was recorded back in early November, but it has taken me until now to post the episode. Unfortunately, a combination of recording with Skype and my microphone caused a mess of the recording, which resulted in a bunch of beeps, buzzes, and clicks throughout the recording. Needless to say, the episode was heavily edited. I went literally second by second to edit out as best as I could the extra noise, but you're going to hear some of it interspersed throughout that, and I'm very, very sorry. So I did my best, and I hope you can forgive the messy audio this go around. I didn't want to re-record because my conversation with guest Nicole Poole, a gardener in Houston, was a good one. Nicole began her journey gardening in Northeast Louisiana before venturing with her family to locales such as South Korea and Dubai, where she attempted to learn to garden and learn about the local culture. She's now back in Houston, growing edibles and ornamentals, and looks forward to expanding her gardening knowledge. If you like today's episode or any of the episodes so far, could you please consider leaving a rating and review on iTunes or subscribing to the podcast there or Stitcher or Google Play. I'm also adding the podcast to YouTube, where I'll be posting the episodes, but also I'll be posting gardening videos once or twice a week. It's kind of a new challenge for me to document my garden a little more this year, because I haven't done that as much in recent years. I hope you'll pop over there and check the videos out and subscribe. You can visit it via bit.ly/2, lowercase I, capital M, capital L, capital T, capital Q, 9. I know that's a little confusing, so it will be in the show notes as well, but if you are listening and wanted to write that down, there you go. In addition, you can always find me on Instagram at The Garden Path Podcast, and you can email me at thegardenpathpodcast@gmail.com. So thanks, and I hope you enjoy the show. Messy noise and all. Bye. We'll just start over if you want to go ahead and tell everybody who you are and where you garden and how long you've been gardening.
Okay, so I'm Nicole, and I'm currently gardening in Katy, which is really on the Katy-Fulshear line, in a rather large subdivision out this way. It's zone 8B/9A. We're kind of on the line. It sort of depends on the year. I've been gardening since around 2005 is when I had my first garden. So about 12 or 14-ish years, give or take, off and on. So, yeah.
And you said you started in Louisiana.
Yeah. So the first garden that I had that was just my garden was in Northeast Louisiana, about 20 or so miles from where I grew up. And it was like a row-till type garden because that's what I knew.
Right. Yeah.
So we bought some property there, and we built a greenhouse and a large garden. We planted, 50 or 60 different trees, and just went all out all at once.
And what kind of trees were you planting, like pecans and that kind of thing? Or?
No, we planted up our driveway there because we were probably a good quarter mile from the road, from the main highway there. We planted Bradford pears and crepe myrtles, but we planted a lot of fruit trees too. We started like a little mini orchard. So we had plums, pears. I think there may have been a couple of apples, but mostly plums.
Okay. And I know you said the row-till means that's kind of like what most people think of when they're gardening these days is, or at least beginning is starting off as a tilling garden.
So yes.
And was that successful for you, or how did that
Actually, work? It was successful. I mean, being that it was our first garden, I think our yields were pretty good that year. The only problem is I'm kind of lazy when it comes to that, and I just didn't like hoeing and pulling weeds, and I was just, I finally looked at my husband and said, there's got to be a better way. Like, there just really has to be a better way. And so we did some research, and I read a lot of blogs then. And I come across one of my, online friends were putting in a garden, and they were doing the Met lighter. I think that's how you pronounce it. Um, and so the next year, that's what we did. We did that same thing. So it's like 18 inches wide by 18 inches tall, and you fill those with sawdust and sand. So it's kind of along the same lines of square foot gardening with a little bit. I mean, it's just sort of a mixture of everything, but it's mainly I would say it's like a mixture of square foot gardening and maybe hydroponics, because it takes a lot of water for that system.
Yeah, I tried to, when you told me that method, I had never heard of it before, and it was actually, I didn't really find a whole heck of a lot on it.
Yeah,
Um,
I think it's kind of went by the wayside since square foot gardening has become so popular, but basically it's 18 inches by 18 inches, and those are normally built. I think you started in like South America or Africa, where the ground's just really bad and you can't grow anything because it's like clay soil and rocks, and so they wanted to. He came up with this system to really get the water to the roots. And
okay.
so, you wouldn't have maybe a deep tap root system, but you would have lots of little smaller roots in the vegetable plants. But you just really have to keep the water going to them.
Wow. So, were you out there watering
No,
by
we
hand
had a we
constantly,
had
or?
an irrigation system. So there was a PVC pipe that ran the entire length of the box, but over the top, not underneath. And so we just had
Okay.
like little valves at each box, so each box could be turned on separately. And it was
Okay.
just like little pinholes in the PVC pipe. It was a little more than like your drip style, but it worked really, really well. Um, and so as we did that the first year, I mean, the plants were massive because it's also a vertical type gardening system. So the plants were
Okay.
massive. They were just really big. But being that we were in the northeast of Louisiana, we found that the system required a lot more of, water from the so we were on city water at the time, if you want to call city water in Northeast Louisiana, but
Yeah.
town water is
Right.
probably more
Public water.
accurate. But we were just spending a lot on irrigation, and we really didn't need it, because we get a lot of rainfall up that way. So over time,
Right.
what we did, because we started with sand and sawdust, but over time we just started adding compost to those beds, and it ended up being, square foot gardening for the most part. Um,
Okay.
but we sold that place, so I think I only grew there 3 spring seasons maybe.
Okay. And I guess since you started a place, was it pretty difficult to uproot yourself like that? You put in a
Well,
lot of work
I
to your
should
garden
go
and
back
then
and
you leave
say
it.
in between moving there and building the house, we closed the house in. So the inside wasn't finished, the outside was finished. And we packed up and we moved to South Korea for about 2 years. And then we came back and finished the house and the garden and all of that. So yeah.
Wow.
But yes, it was. It wasn't so much the house itself. It was the land, the property. It was sort of our dream property. It was a big pond. There was a creek. There was some woods, mostly pasture, and it was kind of rolling hill. But yeah, we did. We packed up and moved to Dubai, and we kept the house for a year. And when I came back that summer after being away for a year, I was like, you know what? We're doing this house an injustice because it's just sitting here. And as much as my family tried to help out with the upkeep, it was lots of decking and things like that around the house, and it was just going downhill really quickly. So the best thing for the house and for the property was to sell it.
Yeah, I can't imagine living on a property like that. And yeah, definitely the upkeep would
Yeah.
totally go to not keeping the pastures kept
Yeah, but
up and the
we
trees
had
and
neighbors that had
your
put
house?
their horses on there. The entire thing, we had not finished fencing all of it. So I would say probably only 10 acres, maybe 15 acres was fenced. The rest of it was still open, and we used that for hay meadows. Because we had goats, chickens, ducks. Uh, we had our beef cows there, half the year, things like that. So it was more about the land, the garden, the animals. That was the hardest part. It wasn't necessarily the house, because it's just a house. Um,
Right.
but yeah, it was really
Yeah.
difficult. It was very sad to me.
And so, yeah, you said you lived in
Yeah.
South Korea and Dubai. Did you
I
garden in South
didn't,
Korea or Dubai?
South Korea was really strange. We loved it there, but so for the first year we lived in like a row house. It's kind of like a townhouse, and I had a small backyard, and I was so excited when we got there because there was this massive rosemary bush in the backyard. I don't know. I bet whomever planted it didn't even know what they had planted. They probably thought it was a shrub. But no, not so much in Korea because you couldn't find seeds, you couldn't find plants, and they only grew cabbage, carrots, some lettuce, onions, and that was it. Like that, when you walked into the grocery store or even the open markets, that was pretty much all you were going to get as far as vegetables. So it was really vegetable war there.
I'm kind of surprised. I figured there would be a lot of tropical fruit and things like that.
No, no, it wasn't. I mean, no. And yeah, I always thought it was strange too. You could get bananas and apples and oranges, and at that, 10 years ago. I've heard it better now in the area, but we were on Hoji Island, which is as far south Korea as you can possibly get. We were actually closer to Japan than we were to Seoul. So it was pretty remote. At the time, the only way you could get there from the mainland of South Korea was a ferry.
Oh.
They've since built a massive bridge now, but at the time it was just the ferry.
Oh, okay. Now, did you get to travel much inside Korea to see?
We didn't, and I regret that. We went to the Philippines. I'm trying to think where else we went. Maybe Thailand, because we've been to Thailand a few times. But no, we didn't. We had a huge trip to China planned, and we found out we had to come back, so we ended up having to cancel that trip. But no, that was really my first experience traveling at all. As a child, we didn't really go anywhere. The farm took up all of our parents' time, so we didn't go anywhere. And so moving to South Korea was a huge culture shock for me. So, and then at the time, my husband was traveling back and forth to the States and to China and Hong Kong and different places like that. So he wasn't around a lot, and I was a bit timid then. Not now. Now I would have, now I would just land there like I've, lived there my whole life and see and do everything. But no, we didn't, unfortunately. I mean, around close, the island elf, yeah, we hiked a lot and things like that, but we didn't travel Korea much. I had a 2-year-old at the time, so.
Oh yeah, that would be kind of difficult too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And how in Dubai?
We when we landed in Dubai, it was hot. We moved there in May, and it was so incredibly hot. But I thought, you know what, this is great. We moved into a house. It was a subdivision, just like what you would see here in Katy, very similar. I thought, you know what, we can garden here year round. This is going to be fantastic. But there's no bees. I learned, so I smuggled in, well, it was legal, but I always joke and say I smuggled seeds in. I would bring in squash seeds, zucchini. You could find seeds there, and we did try the seeds that we bought there, but I think, nobody was really doing it. So they were old, and the germination wasn't really great. So if my mom came over, she would bring seeds, and I would bring some every time we came. But anything that needed to be pollinated just did not make. And for 2 different seasons, so I would mostly garden in the winter there because the temperatures were cooler. In the summer, it was just so hot, nothing would really grow except, tropicals.
Right.
But so in the winter time, I would try to garden, and for 2 different winters, I tried to hand pollinate pollinate the squash and cucumbers and that sort of thing. And, I think I maybe got 4 out of the 2 seasons that I tried to grow them. So I finally gave up, and we just grew a lot of herbs. And we had a Filipino nanny at the time, and so she would grow things like lemongrass. I actually have a cutting of her lemongrass growing in my garden now.
Oh, that's neat.
And they had, let's see, a certain tree that they eat the leaves from. I'm sure you've seen it. It starts with an M. I'm not really good with names unless I write them down. So yeah, I've seen it in the news, or online and news articles and stuff a lot.
It's tropical. I'm thinking of as mangosteen, but I don't know if you can eat the leaves.
No, it starts with an A, ACACIA or something like that.
Acai or something like that.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It's got like little frilly leaves.
Yes.
So she found a tree somewhere in the neighborhood, and then she cut off a piece of it and she stuck it in our garden, and it grew. And then we moved to another house while we were in Dubai, and she did the same thing. So everywhere we went, she brought it with us. And when we left Dubai, from this 2-foot stick that she planted, I think that tree was probably 10 foot tall when we left.
Wow.
In a year. But of course, everything in Dubai is artificially watered. I mean, if you're lucky, you will see rain twice a year.
Wow.
Or 2 days out of the year.
Right.
So everything's watered with desalinated water. So, it's really bad. And you can tell it with the plants. Like when we did have the squash growing, you could really see it on the leaves, the salt damage.
And they were lacking. Nutrients were probably lacking too.
Yeah. And they had some garden centers and things there, but the only fertilizer you could get was NPK. Your standard, I don't know, maybe it was like a 13 or something like that. And that's what they fertilized everything in the city with.
Wow.
So you were pretty limited. You didn't see a lot of compost or organic fertilizers or anything like that. Now, the last year we were there, things like CSA boxes and your organic farm to table kind of thing was really booming there. And we joined a CSA for probably about 5 or 6 months. And I got to thinking, I thought, where this is not coming from here. Like, they advertised it that it was, but there's no way. Like, how are you growing cucumbers inside a greenhouse? I can't get them to grow outside in a pot. Where are the bees and how are you doing this? So I think a lot of the greens and lettuces and, radish and beets and things like that, they were growing and they were doing a really great job of, but everything else was shipped in.
And you didn't, were there a lot of other gardeners? I mean, just even flower gardeners or?
Yeah, all of the houses were landscaped with just massive amounts of tropical plants. Most of them came from probably Thailand, the Philippines, things like that are native to those areas. There was vinca and lantanas and what are those things called? Bougainvillea?
Yeah.
Yes. Those things were everywhere. And then the grass that they grew there was a Bermuda type.
It's just funny, all these tropical plants in a water-starved country.
I know, but a lot of the subdivisions, it was, they had similar HOAs and you had to have a garden.
Wow.
And it always really, really bugged me.
Yeah, this is very interesting. Huh.
Yeah, but I mean, it was gorgeous. The other thing too that was there, and we had 2 of them in the second house that we lived in, was the date palms.
Oh yeah.
So that was, they love the dates, and so you would see the gardeners up tying the mesh around the dates as they were blooming to hold them, until harvest.
Right.
So that was pretty cool.
Huh.
But that, to me, really, that was the only, garden food source type of plant that people were planting was the date palms.
Mm-hmm. No, the bees, do they just not have native bees there, or?
You know what? I tried to research that several different times, and I would just give up. No, I think they do, because the first house we lived in, I found like an open hive in one of the shrubs, and it really didn't look like a wasp. And so the only information that I could find was they do have a little bitty tiny honeybee type, but they're more, but it's an open, more of what you would see a hive in the wild, in the tree.
Right.
I don't even know what you would call those, but like the paper type hive,
Okay.
that would be more like a waspy looking hive,
Right.
But there were no bugs. And I remember after being in Dubai, I don't know, probably a year, maybe two, we came home to Louisiana and we were sitting outside with my brother and his wife one night. And I was just like, why is it so loud? It is so incredibly loud. And I was really confused. And so I stopped and I thought a minute. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's the bugs, it's the crickets, it's the frogs, it's all these things that we don't have there. So I really don't know. I grew frustrated. And then we moved to two different homes. And the second home, we had to install the grass and all the tropicals. And I just kind of maybe jaded,
Right.
like we have this great weather and I can't grow anything here kind of deal. But I mean, we did grow lettuce and herbs and things like that.
Right.
So yeah,
Things
but in containers.
Right.
Yeah, things that didn't need to be pollinated in containers, with really, really expensive compost that we managed to find. I think we were paying like close to $20 for a 20-pound bag or something.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was insanity.
Wow.
But I have to say that Dubai did a really fantastic job of bringing in lots of fruits and vegetables for their, grocery stores and things. While we were there, we came back to Louisiana again, and I went to the grocery store with my mom, and it made me really sad that in the middle of the desert, they had more fresh produce and hundreds of different types of fruits and vegetables, and my mom had like 10 apples to choose from to bring home. So it was quite sad, that a place like that in the middle of the desert had managed to do such a great job for their citizens there. But they did. It was pretty amazing to walk into a grocery store there.
That's cool. And like you said, kind of disenchanting too. Thinking
Yes,
about
it was.
other places that should be able to have that kind of diversity. So.
Exactly. So where my mom and them live, they still live in Northeast Louisiana, and they're very rural, and I would say that it's a food desert there, which is really sad. They have 1 and 2 grocery stores now, but like I said, you have 5 heads of lettuce to choose from and maybe 10 apples, and that's on a good day.
And that's just common for so many of the rural areas anywhere. I'm in kind of in the semi-rural area, you would call it, but it's quickly going to be suburban. But still, it's either the nearest grocery store is still about 10 miles away either direction. So there's the Dollar General or the gas station, and that's what people go to.
Right. And that's the same sort of way they live. It's 12 miles or so to the nearest gas station kind of thing.
Yeah. So, and when you moved back to Houston, you said you bought your house basically by having friends check them out for you.
We did. So because we had lived here previously, we knew all about HAR and, and I knew this subdivision. I'm not going to say what it is, but it's one of the largest, oldest, subdivision out here off 99. But so yeah, I knew the area, I knew the subdivision, I knew the schools were great here, and we had 2 weeks. My husband was leaving Dubai in 2 weeks to be in the Houston office, and we had the option of staying in Dubai and finishing the school year out, but I had 3 small kids. I didn't want to do that.
Yeah.
So it didn't work out the way I wanted it to work out. We ended up having to go to Louisiana and stay, and I was back and forth between Louisiana and here. But yeah, we did. We found the house. Some friends came and videoed it for us, and they did an amazing job, and we bought it as soon as we landed in Dubai. I think from the time we found out we were moving until we closed on the house was like maybe 18, or not closed on the house, but signed the first bit of paperwork, was about 18, maybe 20 days.
Wow.
And I love the house. Don't get me wrong. I absolutely love the house. But Our lot is tiny. I think my backyard is only about 2,500 square feet.
Yeah.
So it's really small, but we're doing the best we can back there. That's where I garden mostly. We have builder landscaping in the front, and I've snuck in a few chives and thyme and things like that in the bed. But I've kind of just maintain what the landscapers put in the front, and really spend the majority of my time in the back.
And you said you had someone come in to build your first garden in the back, and that didn't quite work out as well as you wanted.
No, it didn't. And so what I was looking for was, I wanted some boxes. I wanted some grow boxes, but I also wanted it to be landscaped around. And that's the thing with me. Like, I can sort of see things in my head, and I know what I want, but I'm not that great when it comes to, laying out the lines when I just have a blank space.
Yeah.
And I always end up spending more on it than what I should have, because, I'm changing it to get it to look the way I want it. So I was like, okay, well, these guys know what they're doing, right? They do this all over. And they came highly recommended, but it just wasn't really happy with what I got. So it was very specific with what I wanted. I wanted some square foot boxes, and I also wanted them to focus on the landscaping around it being edible as well, but also pollinator friendly. And when they finished, I had 3 citrus trees, an avocado, an apple, and the grow boxes, and they planted different herbs around, but there was not one pollinator friendly plant in the garden. And I thought, well, we've got a lot of work to do. So we just mainly gardened out of the boxes. There's 3, I think they're 4x6. They may be 4x8. I meant to measure them. I forgot. But so we have 3 grow boxes, and they're 2 foot deep. I didn't want 1 foot because again, I'm lazy and I didn't want to have to bend over quite so much.
Yeah.
And the boxes do really, really well. I'm really surprised. But the landscaping around it, so we lost the avocado tree within probably a month of them putting it in, and they never came to replace it. So we replaced it with a Barbados cherry.
Oh, yes.
That is a nuisance to me now, because it grows like crazy. And we've harvested, I just planted this last summer, at the beginning of the summer last year, and I think we've harvested 4 times off of it.
Oh, wow.
It is the most prolific plant or tree, I should say, that I've ever had.
Wow.
So yeah, so we replaced that. We've added to the land. Okay, so I will say landscaping for everything that's outside of the bed, for the boxes. So since then, we've added, I think we have 30 blueberries out there, and we have them up against the house. So eventually we will prune them to look more like shrubs.
Right.
To be HOA friendly, which actually the HOA is not too strict with your backyard, as long as, you don't put anything permanent in your easements and things like that. So we really haven't had an issue with the HOA with the back. You can't see it anyway.
Right.
There's a little bit of our trellises stick up over our fencing, but other than that, that's it. And all the neighbors know. We share with the neighbors, so they're cool.
Gotta keep them happy.
But yeah, so over the last year, I've just really focused on getting more edibles in. So like I said, we have 30-something blueberries out there. That's a new bed we just put in the spring. Underneath those blueberries, we're growing strawberries.
Okay.
On the end of the back of the house back there, on one end, we have some raspberries, and on the opposite end, we have thornless blackberries.
Okay.
Different varieties. I have 3 different varieties of raspberries. I think there's 3 different varieties of blueberries, and then the blackberries, there's 3 different varieties there as well. And they're all, like Apache and Natchez and things like that. Your common ones that you find in the South. And then underneath the blueberries, we have, I think we planted 40 strawberries.
All right.
But unfortunately, strawberries are like one of those things that I don't know what I do, but I kill them.
Oh.
And so I think we only have 10 left. That was another thing that they did plant some strawberries in the initial beginning of the beds, but none of those made it. They didn't do a great job with the drainage, or additional drainage, I should say. We have since fixed that, I think. Fingers crossed. We'll have to wait till the rain, but I think we have fixed that now. But we lost all of those strawberries too. So we've added in tons of herbs and all sorts of pollinator-friendly plants, milkweeds, coneflowers, black-eyed Susans. I'm trying on a blank. Yeah, there's salvia. There's Mexican sage, firecracker plants. Those are new.
Yeah, those are good.
So firecrackers, and then there's another one that's like a Mexican fire something. It kind of looks like a salvia. They're red.
Yeah. I know.
You know what I'm talking about.
I know you're talking about, but I can't think of the name at the top of my head either. But yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, those are new. We just put those in. We had tons of lantana, and I don't know. I know that lantana is on the list, that butterflies like them, but my butterflies do not like them. I never see butterflies on our lantana. So I'm going to leave 2, but the rest of them are going to come out. I think I'll probably take out 4 or 5 plants. They're just getting really big, and as I said, the monarchs just don't seem to like them.
I see the Gulf fritillaries on mine. I don't see the monarchs on them so much, but the Gulf fritillaries and sulfurs and things like that sometimes. But
yeah, we have a few sulfurs. I've only maybe 1 or 2 Gulfs in the 2 years that I've been here. I don't know. I've been meaning to look and see what I can do to help them come in, but
get a passion vine and you will get the gold.
I just sprouted one. I have one that's about 3 inches tall. So yeah, we're doing that.
All right. Good.
That and the pipe vine.
Yeah, we have a pipe vine too, but I haven't really seen any caterpillars. I mean, we get the swallowtails and things like that, but I'm not seeing the pipe vine swallowtail. I see a bunch of other swallowtails, so.
Yeah, I just put in what I call my swallowtail area with rue and dill and bronze fennel and parsley and all that good kind of stuff. I think most of that'll live through the winter unless we get like a really crazy winter here.
Yeah, and you know, our winter isn't really like that bad until maybe February, and then we have like 2 weeks where it's like,
Right.
So, do you not the fennel? I've always wanted to grow it, but I don't know how to use it. How do you use it?
I haven't really.
Okay.
If I'll be completely honest with you, I don't like fennel at all. I planted it specifically for the caterpillars.
Right.
Yeah. For the butterflies, though.
Yeah, maybe I just need to do that and just suck it up and take some space.
Yeah, the bronze fennel is really pretty too. And normally what I found is I can have parsley and other things planted, but they really, really like dill and bronze fennel the best. If, their choice, those are the 2 that they're going to choose.
Yeah, I had some swallowtail caterpillars on some dill right when we moved in, maybe like the first year, but I haven't been able to find more caterpillars on dill since then. But every year I hope. So maybe this year, I planted a ton of dills, a few weeks ago, and hoping maybe that'll entice them this year. So
yeah,
we'll see. And so that's what you've got growing right now. What are your future goals? How do you want to transform your yard even more?
Well, currently we started a new bed that I put the Mexican sage and things in. So I need to build that up. The soil here is just really bad. So I think that's my biggest goal, is just to keep adding some compost and heavily mulch it. Starting to move more towards more permaculture type with the different layers of the plant. One thing that I have found is I have this area where I have like a trailing rosemary and thyme, and if you pull that area back, you can literally see the worm casings on top of the soil there.
Oh, wow.
So that bit is very healthy. So I think here in my garden, especially in the spring, is I'm really going to start trying to add more edibles as ground cover. So your oreganos and your thyme, and I don't think I need any more rosemary, but But things like that, yeah, I think that's made the biggest difference is this heavily mulching and having the ground covered, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, I definitely agree. I've got some thyme that kind of goes crazy, and I need to trim it back and probably dry it for use in the kitchen, but I like it too, because yeah, it keeps it's a living mulch, like you said, so.
Yeah, it's amazing to look at the soil that's underneath there, and that one spot seems to grow anything and everything better. I also planted a lemon verbena there just to sort of fill in some space and sort of again cast some shade to the soil because we do have a lot of earthworms, but they're spotty, and I can tell where the ground is covered, or if it's not covered, the ground is shaded by one of the trees. That's where they stay.
Mm-hmm.
And my problem areas are where the top of the soil, or it's mulched, but it's getting the most heat, and so they're not coming up.
Yeah.
To really help turn the soil over there. So that's really what I want to work on this spring.
All right, sounds good. I guess where can people follow your garden journey?
So I started with the handle Offshore Wife many, many years ago when we started traveling, and I still stick to that because that's where people know me. So I'm on Instagram mostly at Offshore Wife. I used to blog, but it was mostly about traveling. I'm not really a good blogger. I'm more of a photo blogger. I feel like I always need that photo there to sort of, give people an idea of what I'm talking about, because a lot of times I can go off in one direction or the other. So the photo always keep me grounded, I think.
All right, so yeah, that's where I found you, is on Instagram, and where I'm finding most people these days is Instagram. I think a lot of people have given up on garden blogging, where they blog,
Yeah,
once or twice a
it's
month.
kind of sad. Yeah, it's kind of sad because there used to be tons of gardening blogs, and you just don't find them anymore.
No, but Instagram is where it's at. That's for
Yeah.
so.
That's what people always ask me, like, you're never on Facebook. I'm like, no, I'm on Instagram. That's where my peeps are.
Yeah. Well, good. I'm glad you wanted to come on the podcast and chat with me, and hopefully we can meet up sometime, because we're not, but an hour away, and find a garden center we can hang out at.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thanks for inviting me. It's been fun.
Yeah.
Been fun.
Cool. Well, I'll talk to you later.
Okay, Misty.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.